Welcome to the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast. I'm Anwen, your host and the founder of Purple Sky Consulting. In this episode and all of the episodes of the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast, we are going to be exploring themes, topics, conversations, ideas about leading and leadership. All these episodes are geared around helping you as a leader or the leaders that you work with to feel more confident and effective in their leadership role. In this episode, we are meeting Katy Walton from Make Real Progress. Katy is a fantastic developer of leaders and works a lot with HR and leadership development colleagues on making brilliant experiences for those in leadership roles. Katy always brings brilliant insight, ideas and humour into any conversations or interactions that I have with her. I really love any opportunity I get to speak with Katy. So this is a real pleasure to have so much time with her and so much time talking about a topic that really matters, career conversations. Career conversations matter immensely for the individuals within your team, but you get so much value and so much gold from those conversations as a leader. So let's dive into this episode and I'd love to hear what you think of it at the end. Hello, Katy. Welcome. It's really lovely to have you with us.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Anwen. Really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Right. We're going to have a good conversation today. But before we get stuck into that, why don't you do a little bit of an introduction for our audience in terms of who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Fab, thank you. So I'm Katy Walton. I run a training and coaching business called Make Real Progress, and we were all focused on getting the really best results possible through learning and development. And I've been passionate about learning and development for 30 years. So it's my 30-year anniversary now. It makes me feel so old. But it's been a passion of mine all the way through my career. So I got into learning and development really early on, as you can probably tell. And since then, every single time, in every single role that I've been in, because I've worked in multiple organisations, multiple sectors, every single time I've thought, when it feels dull, when it feels like there's no more challenge, there's nothing more to learn, then I'll try and look at something else. But I found that it's always kept my interest, and I've always loved every single role, whether it's been on my feet training and delivering, whether it's learning and development business partner, so helping fix performance problems and gaps. I've worked as an internal team coach, focused on talent and progression and performance management. There's so much more to learning and development than just being on your feet delivering, right?
Absolutely. And wow, we're going to get loads out of you today based on that experience and your background. So I'm really looking forward to talking to everybody about that today. So we also love a bit of travel on this podcast, mainly because it gives me an opportunity to vicariously go back into some kind of travel mode. So how about sharing with us somewhere you love to travel or a favourite holiday spot?
Do you know what? I found this really hard because I started off, after I left college, I spent 8 years traveling, backpacking all over the place. And I was really struggling to find one particular place. But Australia had a real place in my heart. I absolutely loved it. Lived and worked out there for a year, been back a few times for holidays. And there's one particular spot in Australia that if you have never been to, I'd highly recommend it. So it's called Fraser Island and it's just off the coast of Brisbane. Have you been?
No, I've heard of it though. So we've never been to Australia. So that is definitely somewhere we'd like to go. But I'm not really good with the creepy crawlies. So
No, you know what? There weren't that many out there. But Fraser Island is completely unique. So it is an island, but it's not very inhabited at all.
Okay.
And you've got this huge, beautiful expanse of crystal clear blue lakes. And then the highway is also the landing strip, and it's also the main beach with the shipwreck. It's just the most crazy place, full of backpackers and holiday makers in jeeps. And it's just like you go over crazy sand dunes. It's wild camping. There's dingoes. It's just out of this world. It really is.
Amazing. Right. Okay. Maybe I need to rethink Australia.
I think you should.
I've got my old school friends moved out there and has never come back. And it would be lovely to go and visit her. And there's another one that's there as well from secondary school, and I'd love to go visit them as well.
There you go.
It does feel like it's a long way.
It is, but nowadays you can download podcasts, can't you?
Yeah,
For example,
exactly.
to keep you company all the way. You can listen to the whole series of Purple Sky on the way over to Australia.
I love that. Okay, so thank you for that. Next, I'd like you to share, and you've talked a little bit with us there about your background and your
Mm.
experience. Talk to us about your own leadership experience and kind of what did it teach you about you?
Do you know, looking back, it's been quite interesting, sort of my leadership experience. So I started really early on. So I'd said about traveling and backpacking. So I spent one season working as a holiday rep. And by virtue of the fact that I came back for a second season, guess what happened?
I did.
I was promoted. Yeah, absolutely. So that age-old story that we see time and time again in corporate organizations happened to me when I was 21. So I was leading a team on a campsite in the south of France. There was a team of 10, multinational, multi-generational. And do you know what? It was really being thrown in at the deep end because I had no clue. I had no idea what it was that I was doing. I was feeling my way through it. And actually, it was that second season as a leader when I went back that I did get some learning and development. Went through a management development program, and I kind of realised that there was a lot of things that I was doing instinctively that worked really well. And I also suddenly realised there were a few things that I'd majorly made mistakes on as well. And so it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And that was kind of my first experience of leadership. And then in a corporate role, I think leading people there felt similar in a lot of ways. So a lot of the best practice that I'd learned and honed really came in handy. But I also learned the complexity when you're leading in corporate organizations, because it's not just about leading the team, it's about presenting the team, it's about dealing with your stakeholders, it's about being able to tell the compelling stories about what you're working on or the vision that you're trying to achieve. There is so much more complexity, and I'm not going to lie, I found it really hard. I thought that I'd nailed a lot of the leadership basics earlier on, and then I realized that it was a much tougher environment, I think, working in corporates.
Yeah.
And then I suppose latterly, working for my own business. So I started growing a team there. And that had a different challenge altogether because, yes, I had all of that best practice. And I also had a lot of years of leadership development experience under my belt that I could draw on, which was very, very handy. But I was this time juggling a different kind of team. So some of them were permanent employees, some of them were freelancers, some of them were outsourced specialists. So things like marketing or finance, for example. And yeah, it kind of taught me that I'm not sure how I can say this, Anwen.
Oh, go on.
As much as I enjoy elements of leading a team,
Mm.
it's not what absolutely lights me up and gives me energy. I think I can do it and I've done it really well, but I've also made some crazy mistakes. And yeah, in terms of where it gives me energy, I've realized that my zone of genius is working by myself, doing the thing that I'm passionate about. And I guess that kind of ties in nicely to our topic about career conversations, because it was also knowing a lot about careers and what makes people tick. That really gave me some food for thought, and it helped me to make some really conscious decisions in my own career about which direction I wanted to take.
Oh, I
So,
love that. And I
mm,
love that little phrase you used there of conscious decisions.
yeah,
Not that I can say that clearly,
it's not
but
easy.
there is something really important there about kind of dialing in as a leader in terms of actually I'm doing this on purpose. I'm
Yeah,
doing this because there's a desire to do this aspect of things, and being able to do it and wanting to do it like isn't always the same thing. You need to kind of
absolutely.
to be in your best, your sphere of genius, you need to be able to combine those things. And I think being honest with yourself about where you are is really important because actually it helps you to see where you really are going to be best fitted in the world, isn't it?
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And we see, and I'm sure you see exactly the
Mm.
same, Anwin, as well. So many people who are accidental managers. So
Mm.
it's either because they're chasing a promotion or because, like in my example, you're good at what you actually do.
Yeah.
And so it feels like the next default is, well, let's promote them into a managerial role. And it's a different mindset, it's a different skill set, different application altogether. So I always recommend to people, unless you know that you want to manage people, unless you feel like that it's a real strength of yours and something that you're going to enjoy doing as well, it might not be best to kind of chase that promotion.
Yeah. And also, I think was really nice that reflection on the difference of leading in organizations
Mm,
versus like leading yourself in your own business. I, there's the thing I used to dislike most about my leadership role was never the people management side of things, was never the leadership of the team. It was the broader stuff that you end up having to filter, um, block,
yeah,
you know, prevent people from having to deal with or see. And I knew that that wasn't lighting my fire anymore doing that. But oh, do I love the development side? Yes. Do I love
exactly.
helping people get to where they want to get to? Absolutely. And that's okay too. That's okay to not want to do some of those things
Exactly.
sometimes.
And that's where you can, again, if you look with a bit of granularity about your career and the options that are available to you, you can start picking and choosing the bits that you love. Same with me, developing people, growing people. It's something that I'm obviously very passionate about, like you are. But there's other ways that you can do that outside of leading a team, like working in learning and development, for example. So it's all about, I think, learning what lights you up, what gives you energy, what plays to your strengths, and then focusing your attention on those areas.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you for sharing some of that with us. It's really, really insightful about who you are and where you've got to, and also kind of how that's impacted on your career, taking some time to reflect on that. And that ties us in really nicely to our conversation today around career conversations. And this is an area that sometimes I think I don't know your experience in your organisations, but where I've worked before, sometimes this would be the conversation that would get left last.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be that we'll have the performance conversation so we can do the performance rating, and then yeah, we'll get to the career conversation. We'll get to that side of things.
Yeah, we'll tag
So
it right at the end when we've got
yeah,
about 5 minutes left. Are you
exactly.
happy in your work right now? Any development that you want? No? Okay, thanks. Right. See you in 6 months' time.
Absolutely. And how frustrating, really, because quite honestly, you are doing some gold in those conversations if we can do those in the right way. So, Katie's going to talk to us a little bit about what we can do in that space and how you as leaders can really get the benefit of nailing your career conversations with your team in the best way. So, Katie, how about sharing with us a little bit about the importance of these career conversations?
Yeah, well, like you said, often they are the forgotten bit. They're the bit
Mhm.
that people don't focus on as much. And as you said, there's real gold dust that you can get out of them. But I think the main thing for me about the reason why you should have them, if we look at some of the data out there, look at things like exit surveys when people are leaving organisations, one of the most commonly cited reasons, apart from not getting on with their manager, is that people don't feel like they've had opportunity to grow, develop, and progress. And then if you look at engagement surveys, this is one of the things that's always, usually in the top three, maybe top five of dissatisfiers in engagement surveys. People feel that they haven't had development or that they don't have opportunity to grow in their organisation. So when we've got that kind of data and it's consistent across all organisations in the UK, when we've got that kind of data, it goes to show the power and the strength. If we make room for those conversations, it can make a massive transformational difference. It can turn disengaged employees into engaged employees. It can motivate people. It can help them find meaning and purpose and structure in their work. But there's also quite a few other areas as well. Things like if people feel like they are developed and stretched and people are paying interest in them and their career, they not only are more likely to stay, if they leave, they may also be likely to come back again. And it's worth thinking that, some people obviously are going to be saying, I've heard this 100 times before. My team don't want these conversations. They just want to come in, do their job, and go home. And actually, learning to have good career conversations with those people as well, and including them, they can be transformational for people. I remember working with a lady, she was a PA, she was about 2 years away from retirement, and her previous managers had all but kind of written her off, saying that, she's going to retire, she's coasting down the road to retirement. And actually, she got a new manager, and the new manager had a career conversation with her and found out what lit her up, what energized her, what she felt like she really wanted to achieve in those last couple of years. And she said, do you know what? I've always wanted to lead a team, but I've never had the opportunity. So they created the role for her to be able to have that opportunity. And the difference it made in those 2 years, not just for her own motivation, but from the productivity, the performance levels of the team, it was absolutely amazing to see. So you can get some really good results. And apart from that, the one other thing that I would say, as human beings, we all need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And the career conversation is just another opportunity in your arsenal, I suppose, as a manager, to be able to help people feel seen, heard, and understood, to have that time where they can explore something that's deeply personal and very meaningful for them.
Yeah, such an important way of bridging your relationship and continuing your relationship, isn't it? I remember a conversation I had with a manager, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know about that about you," but that's because we were having a deliberate conversation about something. And it was like, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and unless if you're
Exactly.
having conversations to uncover stuff like that, it's you can lose some of that because yeah, I think you're spot on about that. So we touched on kind of the value and importance of it. What happens when we don't have these conversations?
Okay, right. First of all, your top talent, the people that you've worked really hard to actually bring into the organisation, the ones that are smashing it out of the park, they're the first ones to pack up their things and leave when they're not getting the career that they want in the way that they want it, or they're not getting the development or the stretch or the challenge that they want. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You risk losing your best talent. And I think that apart from anything else, apart from all of the other added benefits, that's the thing to really watch out for. And also, you talked about having performance conversations with people, and performance conversations are essential, but it's the career conversations, the development conversations that are going to start motivating people, that help build them up in a different way. So if you're not having them, you're risking having a demotivated team who are just going through the motions, coming in, doing the job, going home. I think there's so many reasons why it's very valuable to have them. So you're missing that golden opportunity. And I love the phraseology that you use there when you talked about having them deliberate conversations. So not just a tag on, not just one question at the end of a one-to-one or at the end of a performance review, but a separate, distinct conversation that helps them understand more about their own motivations and their aspirations and what they want to do. And it helps you as the manager and leader to understand that about them as well. So
There's nothing more valuable than spending time with your team. Like, whatever those conversations are, and being specific about the types of conversations, I think really helps to give that structure. But wow, that's the job,
it
There's a lot
is.
of time when we forget that actually spending time talking with your team one to one or in groups is the job.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And if you think about the whole kind of urgent, important
Mm,
matrix, it's something that's very important, but it often doesn't feel urgent
yeah,
unless you've got a presenting problem with someone saying, right, I am going to be leaving unless,
yeah.
I don't see something happening. So often it can fall off the radar because, let's face it, there are no managers and leaders out there who are sitting there twiddling their thumbs thinking, I've got no idea what I'm going to fill my day with today. Everybody's busy. And I hear this consistently from people that, I don't necessarily have time to have a career conversation with them. I've got too much else on my plate. So it's just worth bearing in mind. It's important. It doesn't often feel urgent though. And I think that's quite a challenge for people.
And we're going to talk about kind of the best way leaders can work with these career conversations to
Mm.
get about best out of them in a moment. And what I've just find so useful here is like, this is part of running the team as well, you know. This isn't just about ticking boxes on conversations. Like for here, I'd get little nuggets about, you know, yes, I'm busy, but oh, they want to do a bit of X, Y, and Z. Do you know what? I can delegate some of that now
Exactly.
because they've actually actively looked for opportunities that are in areas that I can actually create development for and improve my own kind of ways of working and what I've got on my plate. So look for those opportunities to kind of see additional benefits other than just the things we've talked about so far. And just is probably a bit of an
Exactly.
understatement.
When you're saying there about the tick box activity, the more that you treat it as a tick box activity, the more it's
Totally.
going to feel like a tick box
Yeah.
activity for the person on the receiving end, and the less value it's going to add.
Yeah.
So it is well worth just thinking about how you might want to do it differently, so it feels like you've got that genuine interest in the other person, so they become valuable. Because if you're acting it out as a tick box activity, it's never going to feel valuable to anybody.
No,
No,
absolutely. And then you don't want to go back to them, do you?
no, exactly.
So
Yeah.
what should a really good career conversation look and feel like?
So here's the thing. I don't think there's ever going to be one set formula that's going to
No.
work. So if anybody's listening, hoping that I've just got this gold dust that I can say, just ask these 3 questions and you're golden,
Magic.
it's not going to work like that. But what I do is I share, I've got a whole range of different tools that you can use at different times. And so I'll bring to life a couple of them to share them with you all here. I think one of the first things to do is think about the 3 areas of focus that a career conversation can cover. First area of focus is around raising awareness. So your awareness and their awareness about kind of what things that they're interested in, what aspirations they've got. So to help people to really understand what it is that they actually want to get from a career in the first place, and where are they now, where do they want to be. So raising awareness is the first area. Second area is thinking about what are the actual opportunities. And those opportunities, they may well be in your organisation, but they might be hidden. People might not be aware of what's out there. And the opportunities could also be external to the organisation. So I encourage you to really think about not just restricting yourself to what's in the organisation. It might sound counterintuitive when I've talked about, you know, one of the big perks of having career conversations is retaining your top talent. But we also have to be realistic. If there really genuinely isn't the right opportunity for this person to get the satisfaction that they want from their career, is it not better to help them to leave well and to find something that is better suited, that actually may result in them getting more experience and more knowledge and more skills, and then potentially coming back in the future? So thinking about those opportunities, you know, whether they're in your team, whether they're broader, or whether it's even external to the organisation. And the third key area of focus really is about development. So thinking about, well, if you're here right now and you want to be over there, what's going to get you from here to there? So that's kind of your big overarching thing, is thinking about ticking off those areas. And where you actually focus is going to depend a lot on the individual. So, for example, you may have one of your team members who knows exactly where it is that they want to be. They know exactly what lights them up, what fires them up, what energizes them. So actually, you probably don't need to do any raising awareness. You could just focus on drilling down on the opportunities and the development for them. You've got other people who've got not a Scooby-Doo, not a clue. They don't know, they've never even given it any thought. They've maybe just, you know, gone through their career bit by bit, ended up where they've ended up, and they're just not sure what they want to do or where they want to go, or even the value of having a career conversation. So those people are ideal candidates. You don't want to go straight to opportunities and development. You want to spend some time raising awareness first. So a couple of things that you can do then to start raising awareness. One of them, I call it a career compass, and it's something I created. It's just a set of questions, areas to focus on to help raise people's awareness. So it's called the career compass. If you think about a compass, you've got the north, east, south, west. And so we just replace it with N for north is needs, E instead of east is energy, S instead of south is strengths, and W instead of west is watch outs. So when you help people think about their needs, what they need, what they want from their career for it to feel meaningful and satisfying for them, energy, what gives them energy, what lights them up, what excites them, what motivates them, when are they in their zone of genius.
Yeah.
S for strengths, what do they do really well, what comes naturally to them. And the W, the watch outs, this could be either their blind spots, either things that they don't know about and they need some feedback on, or it could be things that are real career derailers for them potentially. So it's things that they need to be really mindful of if they're going to move forward. So again, you don't necessarily need to do all of those, but I find it really helpful, especially if people are really stuck. So needs, for example, I remember coaching a guy, it was a few years ago now, and he was up for a junior director role. And so the coaching was all focused on preparing him ready for that role.
Yeah.
And when we kind of dug a little bit deeper, and I was asking him, what did he really need and want from his career to be satisfied? And I had a checklist of, I have 20 different statements that people can rank in order of preference. And he noticed that balance, work-life balance, was number one for him. And then as we went down, we realised there was nothing about status and nothing about stretch or challenge and growth up there. And it served like as a moment for him to suddenly realise, I don't actually want the promotion. I don't want to be prepared for the promotion because actually it's not going to give me what I need. And I had a similar experience with my own manager. There was, it was 20 years ago, I was pregnant with my eldest son, and I was asked to go for a promotion, and I was really weighing it up. Is now the right time for me to go for a promotion? And I did a really similar activity with him. And again, I suddenly realised actually now is not the right time. And it's not to say it won't be the right time in the future, but just right now, it's not the right time. Yeah. So needs first, and then energy and strengths can be quite interchangeable, but even asking questions about when time flies and you haven't even noticed it, when you're kind of really getting your head down and you're in the moment, what are you doing and who are you doing it with? Those kinds of questions to find out what fires them up, because often we might think of our career, our next steps, as the usual next steps. What do we see other people doing? And actually we're all really unique individuals, so perhaps if we focus instead on what lights us up and what motivates us and what are we already really great at, that can take us in a different direction. So I'm sure you might be familiar with the Gallup research that talks about strengths, and if you use your strengths every day, you're 6 times more likely to be engaged. So how fabulous if you can start to create a career which plays to your strengths.
I love that bit about energy, by the way. I think that's such a, and I think it ties in as well to sometimes where I've seen scenarios where career conversations have happened, manager and the colleague have kind of talked about what's needed and where they're going to go or how they're going to address that. And for some reason, the colleague just isn't actively engaged in that opportunity, even though it apparently is the right thing. And there is something there around what is going on there, and is that a motivational energy thing that is contributing to that happening? I find that really interesting in terms of the data it gives the manager to then have a conversation around, like, what's going on here, because I thought we were going in this direction because that was what you wanted, but I'm seeing X, Y, and Z going on. Talk to me some more about that. So yeah, I think that energy piece is a really, really interesting way of looking at it.
And I love when you said about the right thing, because it's like right thing for who? Right thing as in this is what typically other people might do, right thing for the organisation, or right thing for the team member. Yes. I think that there can be a world of difference.
And I sometimes don't think you know that until you start.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might start with the ordinary standard way of doing it, but actually if it's flushing out that individual needs to do that in a different way, that's great for you as a leader to have that agility to be able to look at that and talk to them and work with them about how to do that differently then, in terms of a way that is going to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve. So exactly. Yeah, I love those frameworks. Thank you.
Saying earlier as well about giving you good data, that's exactly the point of these kinds of questions, because like I said, it's not a linear process, but what you're doing by asking these kinds of questions is you're getting really good data to help you to perhaps a little bit further on down the conversation, because one of the other frameworks that you can use is looking at people's career aspirations. So typically I don't ask people, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years time? I think that's really quite outdated now.
Yeah,
You think about the pace of change of everything.
absolutely.
You're entirely unlikely to see exactly the same role in existence in 5 years, 10 years time. So career aspirations, instead, chunk it down into one of four groups. So the first one is staying in your current role. The second one is becoming more of a specialist in your profession. Third one is looking more broadly across the organisation to take your skill sets into a different role at the same level. And the fourth one is looking for more stretch and challenge. So potentially a promotion, but a more stretching role. And that's really quite interesting because, say if you start off a career conversation asking those questions, then when you go into the career compass about what people need, what gives them energy, what their strengths are, what their watch outs are, you can then look at the data that they're coming back with. So, for example, if somebody says, actually, I want a real stretching, challenging role, and then in needs, they're saying they want work-life balance more than anything else, and they really value that highly, and they like job security, and they like knowing what they're doing. And what gives them energy is doing the job that they're doing right now. It gives you really good data to start challenging their career aspirations back. And just, I'll say challenging, that feels really hard, but what I mean is challenging in a
Exploring.
coach-like way.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's really interesting. So you've said over here, this is the aspiration you've got, and yet over here you've said X, Y, Z, which feels a bit different. So which feels like the right way for you to move forward.
It's where I love that type of structure to the conversation. This is back to what I said before about the manager not knowing that thing about me.
Yeah.
This is when you're thinking about talent pipeline within your business, within your organization, these are the bits of data, if we go back to that, that you should be looking for, because this might be where you're hearing stuff from people that maybe you wouldn't have ordinarily gone, oh, this would be my next person to do this, or this is who I maybe would be thinking about this role in future, because you haven't had those conversations and you haven't given people the opportunity to go, like the PA, I'd really love the opportunity to lead people. Now, sometimes your vocal people and your extroverts in your teams are letting you know that really easily and really actively, whether they are the right people or not, that those are the opportunities that they want. Whereas you might have other people in your team that aren't either feeling able to or haven't really unlocked that thinking about what they might want to do. Activating that is important, and that means you taking the lead on it rather than waiting for them to come to you to say, can I have a career conversation? Because often it's the ones that will come to you, can I have a career conversation, that know exactly what they want to do.
Exactly. It just kind of reminded me of one more thing that might be useful to share a tip on is, whether people have opportunistic or planned careers. So, the planned is that, in 5 years and 10 years time, and it does have a couple of pros. It can really help people to focus on the development and the opportunities that might get them there. I mean, obviously, we've talked about the cons of it as well. But opportunistic careers, you've got roughly 80% of the population who have quite an opportunistic approach, which means they take opportunities as they come up. They don't necessarily plan for them. So what you can also do is think about how you can help people to navigate an opportunistic career. And that could just mean things like that. The focus for them could be on broadening their network, for example, or it could be just developing really good transferable skills like emotional intelligence or communication, so that when the right opportunity presents itself for them, they're in the best place possible. So there are still some great things you can do, even if people don't know exactly where they want to be.
Absolutely. Because career development, career conversations don't have to centre, like you said, around movement up or
No,
out or
not at all.
sideways.
No.
Like the value of building skills and developing skills is so important, because as human beings, that's like a natural thing we thrive on quite a lot of the time, that building skills. So that's where that challenge for you as a manager is going, my team are happy doing what they're doing and where they are right now. Great. However,
there is a however. There's a big however, A, in terms of motivation, and B, if people fall into that first camp of, I just want to stay in my role, it's about emphasizing there's no such thing as standing still, because we're in a crazy world and there's progress left, right, and center. And unless you do some development, you're going to get left behind and your skill set might become obsolete in the future. You might not have a role in 2 or 3 years' time.
Yeah.
So it's about that constant development, A, to keep their skills fresh, and B, because it's highly motivational.
It is, and the enjoyment people can get from just a little bit of stretch,
Yeah.
just a little bit of something new.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know many people who don't kind of get lit up by something exciting or new. Really, really. I mean, of course, there are going to be a couple of people out there that are like, no, I would like grey for forever, please. Yeah. Well, there aren't many of those people in the world, really.
No, exactly.
And the joy that you can see in lighting up somebody's new experience or new thing that they've learned or nailed or helped somebody else learn, like, that's just delightful, I think.
Absolutely. And this is one of the other good things about career conversations and developing your team, is that onward ripple effect that it can create, because you're not necessarily just spending time developing that one person and that's it. They can then have a knock-on effect on other team members, other colleagues, other people that they work with. So you're creating a ripple effect every time you invest that time in that one team member.
Love it. I love that. Thank you, Katy. Were there any other tips or points that you wanted to share with people on career conversations before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the most obvious thing is really brush up on your own skills as a manager of coaching and feedback, because they're really foundational for having a great career conversation. So, we didn't talk much about watch outs, but that's where your skill of feedback comes in. Being able to land a message to really clearly help somebody to understand what's going to stop them from making the progress that they want to make. Yeah. Because it's all about, trust and honesty and letting people know, rather than, I've heard so many horror stories from people who've said, I've gone for the same role 5 times and my manager has never once given me any indication that I wouldn't be a good fit for this. So we want to kind of get over all of that. So coaching and feedback is one tip that I would give. Another one is just remembering what your role is as a manager. So you're not there to drive their career for them. You're not there to fix things, solve things, come up with the solutions for them. And that's where the coaching comes in. It's to help them to raise their awareness and they take the action. The thing is, as a manager, we're often involved in conversations with people that our team won't be. We see more of the organisation than they do. So that means we're much more likely to be able to connect them in with people, connect them in with opportunities, like maybe a project opportunity, build their network for them, open some doors for them. So that's our role: act as a coach, give some feedback, and connect and support.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
There was loads of gold in there. I know you said you didn't have a magic one for answering that question, but actually there was loads of stuff in there that people can actively take away and action in their own teams. So thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you.
So I would suggest either heading over to LinkedIn. I'm sometimes more active on there than others, but you can generally find me on LinkedIn, or also my website, makewillprogress.co.uk.
Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us, Katy.
Anwen, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this episode of the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast. You'll find all the links and connection details in the comments for this episode. If you've got any questions on the back of it, please do get in touch with either myself or Katy. So big thank you for Katy for that fantastic episode. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.